2 on Tuesday, August the 7th. We will call the meeting to order. We will start off by having a prayer led by Billy DeWitt this morning. Billy?
Good morning, all that I didn't get a chance to speak to already. This morning, we come, Heavenly Father, thanking you for this day because this is a day that you have made. Heavenly Father, as I utter this prayer, I consider myself your very humble servant, Heavenly Father, put in a place to serve others as all of us are. Heavenly Father, I ask you to crown our head with wisdom from the top of our head, Heavenly Father, to the soles of our feet. Help us make good decisions, Heavenly Father. Help us be concerned about the effect our decisions have on others. Heavenly Father, I just ask you to bless everyone that is under the sound of my voice. It is in your Son, Jesus' name, I offer this prayer. Amen.
Amen. I did not mention earlier, but if you do have a cell phone, please check to make sure that it is on silent. We are now going to have our pledges. May I please have Cadet Major Ricky Lacey up, please? And you are a JROTC student and an HR student worker. Welcome. Please lead us in prayer.
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Today we have two proclamations. The first one will be a proclamation of August as Breastfeeding Awareness Month. Is anyone here in the audience for this proclamation? All right, I'll just read it then. Research estimates that if 90% of U.S. families breastfed exclusively for the critical first 6 months of a child's life, the nation would prevent nearly 1,000 infant deaths and avoid $13 billion per year in economic losses. Breastfeeding is one of the greatest investments that communities and families can make in the lives and futures of their children, thus enhancing the long-term strength of society. Breastfeeding has been found to be cost-effective, along with being a saver of babies' lives, a reducer of later health risks such as diabetes and obesity, an abating factor for a mother's risk of breast and ovarian cancer, a healthier start to a child's life, and a boost to a child's education, which translates into greater productivity and higher earnings as an adult. Therefore, I, Brenda Gunter, Mayor of the City of San Angelo, Texas, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim August 2018 as National Breastfeeding Month in San Angelo, Texas, and call upon all citizens to unite under this year's theme, Breastfeeding, a Foundation of Life, as we work together to support exclusive breastfeeding across our community.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for this recognition. We are just so excited to be able to share the information about National Breastfeeding Month. August 15th in particular, we are hosting a celebration at the WIC office there at 52 West College. It is all day. There's going to be speakers. There's going to be food, of course, and lots of things going on just to celebrate that. We want folks to be aware of the breastfeeding opportunities in our community, and thank y'all so much for your time.
Next, we will have a recognition of the United Way of the Concho Valley, and I'm sure I saw Patty in the audience a minute ago. There she is. Imagine the possibilities. Donations to the 2018 United Way campaign could provide a wealth of opportunities to hundreds of children, families, and the elderly here in the Concho Valley. Imagine all children, including those from low-income families, receiving high-quality, affordable daycare in a learning environment while their parents work or attend school. Our youngsters enrolled in an after-school program in which they got tutoring and guidance to ensure their success in school and in life. Imagine a safe haven for battered women in our community, a place where victims of domestic violence can summon the inner strength and receive skills they need to rebuild their lives one step at a time. Imagine a place where veterans and their families can receive mental health services, substance abuse treatment, and outreach during their times of crisis. Imagine the work that these and other agency programs supported by the United Way of the Concho Valley can accomplish through your donations. If we can imagine a world filled with possibilities, we can create it. The City of San Angelo supports the United Way. We ask that you do the same. Therefore, I, Brenda Gunter, Mayor of the City of San Angelo, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby recognize and applaud the United Way of the Concho Valley for its achievement and positive determination to make a difference in our community. Thank you, Patty.
On behalf of the United Way, we would like to thank everyone that is a city employee and who does so very much for our community. You know, on behalf of all the people that you will never have a chance to meet, who get services from the United Way and all of our program providers, let me say thank you.
At this point, we will open the meeting for public comment. Issues or items that are not on the agenda may be raised by the public at this time. Citizens should speak from the podium, begin by stating their name, and limit remarks to less than 3 minutes. Council members may request that a discussed item be placed on a future agenda. The council takes public comment on all regular agenda items during the discussion of those items. Is there anyone here today who would like to come up? Please come forward, state your name.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Joe Yarbrough. I live
Well-
at 2894 Red Bluff Circle, out at the lake.
Yes.
I'm here to discuss today the lake lot appraisals, the lease fees, and the purchase of lots. I have my appraisal here that the city commissioned to be completed to determine the lease fee or the purchase price of my lot. I spoke with Cindy Apries several times regarding this appraisal. Please give me this opportunity to explain the several problems. Okay, sorry. Please give me this opportunity to explain the several problems with this appraisal. Originally, the city divided the lake in half. One appraisal company was assigned one half of the lake. The other appraisal company was assigned the other half of the lake. For professional purposes, I will call them companies A and B. Company A is known in the banking, mortgage lending, and real estate to produce a higher appraisal, while Company B is known to be more conservative in their appraisals. The situation that has occurred at some point during this process, which was a couple of years back, the city stopped calling Company B. That point was when the value of these properties went sky high. Now let me discuss the appraisal on my lot lease that was appraised 6/7 of 2017 by Company A, which was originally assigned to Company B. This appraisal only has 3 comps. These 2 comps date back to 2013, 2015, 2016. I've been unable to find one professional entity, a banker, a mortgage company, a real estate company, any of these professionals that will accept this. Not one of them will accept this. They all require it to be less than 180 days old, but really prefer them to be within 90 days of the purchase date of the property. Yet the city is willing to accept this document with 5-year-old comps. They use these numbers to calculate my new lease rate. My annual lot fee went from $670 a year to $1,931 a year. That is roughly an increase of 197%, or I can purchase the lot from the city at a price of $128,700. I ask each one of you, would you be willing to accept this appraisal with comps going back 5 years? Just to be clear, this was during the height of the $110 a barrel oil. During this same time period, 127/14, Company B appraised a lot at 2884 Red Bluff Circle. This is located 3 lots down from mine. It appraised for $61,390. So my appraisal indicates that this lot is more than doubled in value in a short period of time. That would mean this property exceeded 25% appreciation when the national average is between 1.5% and 3%, depending on the economy.
You're going to need to wrap it up if you could.
Okay.
Your 3 minutes will be up shortly.
Okay.
Thank you.
The lot at 2890 Red Bluff Circle appraised on 4/4/18. It's the lot next door to mine. It appraised $123,000. It appraised just last month. It sold again. The appraisal this time was $109,000. That would contradict the property values are increasing at such a rapid rate. Both appraisals were done by appraisal company A. Just to be clear, the appraisal companies cannot come up with an accurate appraised value because they have no comparisons or comps to use. All the lake lot sales are handled by the City of San Angelo Real Estate and Legal Department, which does not report real estate sales data. The city can continue to pay for their appraisals, but the appraisal company have no clue what has sold or the purchase price paid. It's like the old saying goes, you can ask whatever you want, but it's only worth what somebody's willing to pay. In closing, I have put together this information in a short period of time. There seems to be no logical reasoning behind the values. Just on these 2 examples, I have described huge value swings, not to mention that one dropped in value $19,000 in a 14-month period of time. This contradicts these values, these property values, and increasing at such a rapid rate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
All of this is the data that I used, and I did a public information request on the sales. There's only been 43 lots that have sold in the last 5 years, so they're not hot sellers. They're priced out of the people's affordability.
Thank you for your input. Is there any further public comment, please?
Yes, ma'am. Steve Hampton. Some time ago, Steve Miles stepped down as emergency management coordinator. I was wondering what has happened there, why, or who has been selected, if any. We have a drought going on, and compensations may be coming up, and I was wondering about that. Also, I would like to hear on the consent agenda, item B be pulled.
Any further public comment?
Morning, Mayor, Council. Lance Overstreet, Assistant Director, Water Utilities. And I just wanted to let everybody know, as a reminder, the drought level 1 conditions started August 1st. And just as a public service announcement to everyone, that carried with it some watering restrictions from 12 to 6 during the day as far as watering your yard. You can water your yard once a week for up to 1 inches of water. And then also, too, there are surcharges that are also imposed in drought level 1 conditions for water usage over 3,000 gallons. And so just to let everybody know and a reminder of that's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
More public comments? Come on up, Anthony.
Morning, Council. Anthony Wilson. I'm your Public Information Officer. Just a reminder, we have a big event tonight, the State of the City event, 6 o'clock at Murphy Performance Hall. We're hoping that the public will show up. It's an opportunity to hear from our mayor and, of course, to ask any questions of you guys or any of the public servants who really make a difference on the issues of interest, importance, and impact to the public. So 6 o'clock tonight, Murphy Performance Hall, and if you can't make it, you can watch it live on our Facebook page or on SATV.
Thank you. Any further public comment? We will now close the public comment section of the agenda today, and we will move into the consent agenda. I'm going to start with Billy and ask if she has any items other than B to be pulled.
I would like to pull item B. It was a question that I had when I met with Daniel yesterday, so I don't know what Steve's questions are, but I'd like
Okay.
item B. Thank you.
Lane? Lucy? Harry?
Nothing.
Tom?
Ma'am.
Tommy?
No, ma'am.
With item B pulled from the consent agenda, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda with the exception of item B?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any public comment? With no public comment, we'll take a vote on all items except B. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? With none opposed, consent agenda, with the exception of B, has passed. Item B, consider approving buy board contract number 521-16 from Freightliner of Austin, Texas, in the amount of $377,389, budgeted in the fiscal year 2018 for the purchase of one sewer vacuum truck and authorizing the city manager to execute any related documents. Thank you. Billy, do you want to go ahead and ask questions?
Well, the question that I had was, why did we need another sewer truck? Was it because of demand? Our demand is increased? Are we going to take one of the existing trucks out of service? Was my question. So why did we need to purchase an additional sewer truck?
Yes, ma'am. Good question. Thank you for asking. We do have currently in our fleet 2 of these similar trucks. One's a little smaller, one's a little bigger.
You want to put the mic closer to your
sure.
voice, please?
There, is this better? So we do have 2 of these trucks now, and we are looking to add a third one, and that is simply because of the demand of the truck. It is a high-use truck. It is a very much an on-call truck, so we do see increased usage as we have increased demand. And we know that the sewage system in our city is drastically important to our citizens. And so anytime we have a stoppage and we have a truck failure, we know that we're going to be a little out of luck. And so we don't want that. So what we're going to be doing with this truck is, yes, we're adding a third truck to that grouping, but we're going to take the oldest truck that would normally be replaced at this very time, and we're going to put that in reserve so that we have a backup in the case that we do have a truck that is out of service for maintenance or repairs, that we can pull that truck out of reserve and use the truck. So normally right now what would be happening is we would just simply be replacing one of the existing trucks, but it is in our best interest to add the truck so that we have a reserve.
So if we were replacing an existing truck, we would be auctioning the one that we were taking out of service?
Yes, ma'am. If we don't have anywhere to repurpose the vehicles, we do auction them, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So we approve it today. What's the time frame in terms of getting one?
Actually, this company that we've selected here for this purchase is actually very quick. I expect to see the truck in less than 60 days.
Okay. Any further questions from council? With no further questions from council, do I have a motion to approve item B?
Motion to approve, Mayor.
A second?
Second.
Any further public comment?
Yes, ma'am. Steve Hampton. I basically had that same question, but in hearing the explanation, I wonder, it seems like this is a recent usage change, like we're going to using these trucks more often. And I just wondered if maybe we're giving up a less expensive method of handling a problem and going to the more expensive way to handle it.
What do you know what that less expensive meant?
No,
Okay.
that's what I'm asking.
Mayor, I do want to point out that we do have an aging infrastructure. Our goal really is to replace that infrastructure as we move along the years. But the issue right now, we do have an aging infrastructure. At times, we do have those issues that do develop that require that truck to come in. So again, I think in the future, once that infrastructure, Steve, is replaced, you'll see probably the use of that truck will actually go down, and we'll actually be able to maintain with 2. Okay.
Thank you. Any further public comment on this item B? With no further public comment, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We will now move into the regular agenda. I see Bruce Partain there back in the room, and I just want to offer a congratulations on an incredibly successful legislative summit. Thank you for all the work and effort that you put into that. It was tremendous.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
All right, moving into the regular agenda. Item A, presentation of the biannual report from downtown San Angelo. Dale Velasquez is here.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Thank you for your support. I'd like to introduce Holly Rose. She is our new assistant. Holly, I'd like for all of y'all to get to know her. You know, we have had a tremendous run of support from our former assistant, Lucy Hoffhines, who retired after 9 years. So congratulations to her. Moving forward. I want to start off by going over a few of the projects that have been undertaken in downtown San Angelo. As you see on your screen, the old firehouse is now being renovated into a bed and brew. This historic building in San Angelo has been a great opportunity for us to continue our development into the downtown district. Another project that has really made a big difference in our downtown district is the whole block, starting with 12 North Chadbourn all the way to 38 North Chadbourn. There has been several new businesses that have been established there, 2 fitness centers, a bakery, an art gallery, and then someone's personal residence. And those, again, have been a great improvement to our downtown area. Here are some of the new businesses that have been either purchased or started anew. One of them is Bricks Winery, formerly known as Concho Valley Winery. The Concho Arts and Crafts, that is a new business. Gym 28, which you saw a picture of here in the 1 block area that's being developed. Nosh Restaurant used to be in the is formerly known as Silly Flats, La Bella Massage and Skincare, the Rustic Field, To Table Barbecue, and Slanging Dough. Slanging Dough has received a lot of publicity recently, and we're extremely happy they're in downtown San Angelo. Companies that have relocated within the downtown district is A-Rock, Backbeat Music. They moved into the old Masonic Lodge building, which is a historic to our community. And we're glad to see that building being renovated. And then Cactus Bookstore recently just moved over 1 building.
You want to go back and talk that, I'm not sure everybody knows where 130 South Oaks is.
130 South Oaks, yes, the Masonic, the old Masonic Lodge building, yes. You know, Backbeat Music has really taken on a challenge selling consignment equipment, music equipment, and they're working also to establish a recording studio in that building as well. And so, again, another for diverse type of business that's not common in our downtown district, so we're very glad to see them take on that responsibility. In reinvestment, we've had 231 rehab projects in downtown with close to $42 million in total expenditures of rehabilitation. New construction, we have had 63 new buildings developed in the downtown district. Again, these are cumulative from 2007 to through March of this year. So that in that number looks more like close to $90 million. Continuing in the private sector, properties that have been bought and sold, we've had 120 cumulative, with almost $21 million. So total private investment has been $151 million and some change.
Your total reinvestment is what? There you go.
The total reinvestment, actually, I just did our last quarter, so we're up to about $207 million in reinvestment in downtown San Angelo. These are the numbers for city, county, state projects that have been developed through the downtown district, and that totals in close to $9 million. Also, so public projects, again, with the as I mentioned before, close to 49 million or 48 million, brings us to the $200 million project range.
Yes, Billy?
May I ask?
Yes,
Dale?
you please.
Dale, would you go back one slide, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Where you talk about the number of new buildings?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that mean, I mean, they weren't built from the ground up, right? They were maybe gutted, or were they actually built from the ground up when you say new buildings?
Yes, yes, ma'am. There were new construction, new buildings that were either developed on a lot that was empty, or they removed the previous structure that was there and redeveloped.
Name a project for.
The area foundation is one.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And some of those are Shannon Medical Center. They've had a lot of construction in that area, or they have. So what the sales tax looks like for the quarter of April through June, we collected $298,000 in the central business, in the Main Street. And let me talk a little bit about the Main Street District. The Main Street District was established by the state, those parameters, which is a larger, broader area, geographic area. The Central Business District is a much smaller district, which in this time frame, April through June, we collected $64,930 for a cumulative of $363,249.77.
You want to describe what the Central Business District parameters
The parameters, yes, ma'am. 4th Street would be the north boundary to Main Street on the east side, and Martin Luther King or Randolph Street on the west side, and on the south side, it'll go all the way to Washington Avenue, or Washington Drive, excuse me.
Is it Main Street? Isn't it Houston Hart on the north side?
On the north side, yes, it goes all the way to 6th Street on the Main Street. It goes all the way to Washington on the west side. Washington, as you know, curves around, so that's the western boundary, and on the east side, it stays the same, Main Street. Some of our outreach programs we've presented to the Rotary Club. We were involved in a fundraiser for the Lakeview High School Mariachi program, and then recently we received a proclamation for Preservation Month. We've supported our local businesses. We've attended the ribbon cutting for the Red Lions Inn. I was asked to be the keynote speaker at the nationalization ceremony recently, and then obviously we are very involved with the tourism efforts that the Convention Visitors Bureau has been very supportive. Here are some of our new fiberglass sheep that continue to grow. The flock continues to develop and grow. We're nearing 100 sheep. We're just a few away from that happening. And that's really been a great fundraiser for us, but the marketing value that it's brought to San Angelo, I can't tell you. I wish you could come spend a day at our office, especially during the summer when we get visitors from all over. We had some people from Scotland drop by that were doing a scavenger hunt, if you will, for the sheep throughout the city. So it's been great. We continue to build our historic magazine, and our new one will be coming out in September. And these are the Downtown Stroll, which we have continued to run every third Thursday of the month since 2007. We continue to do that, and it's been really successful activity for us, drawing more attention to our downtown district. We participated as in the craft beer experience recently, and upcoming promotions. These are some that I'm really excited about. One of them is a partnership with Operation Blue Shield. It is called Run with the Heroes. We have had tremendous support from our corporate sponsors, Time Clock Plus and First Financial. They're supporting this, and the idea is for our community to come out and participate with our first responders. And all of you sitting there are first responders. And so we hope that we'll see you there on that day, September the 15th. It's the kickoff to Riverfest, which I know all of you are very familiar with Riverfest. So please join us on that day. The other event that we'll be promoting is Brews, Use, and Barbecue. This will be the 3rd annual event for this particular cook-off, and this year we're going to host it at the El Paseo. We moved it for many reasons. And we also host the ASU Homecoming Parade, which will be October the 13th. I'm sure most of y'all will be at that event, and the Lions Club will do their pancake breakfast that morning as well. So lots of activities, lots of fun, still things going on that will continue to help grow and develop downtown.
Dale, everyone always wants to know about the Roosevelt Hotel. Could you please update?
Yes, ma'am. My understanding is that we're about in September, the September timeframe, we should start seeing some construction. I know that they'll be going to the DHRC this month to get approval for the facades and all the other exterior development that's going to be undertaking that project, and we hope to see some construction in September.
Do I have any other questions from council? Thank you, Dale.
Thank you.
We'll move into item B. Consider the following resolutions. 1, awarding RFQ AP-01-18 professional services, airport planning services to Centurion Planning and Design, LLC, in the amount of $826,334 for task order 1, budgeted for purchase fiscal year 2018, and authorizing the city manager to execute any related documents. And 2, ratifying the grant application made to the Federal Aviation Administration for an updated airport master plan and layout plan, accepting the maximum grant award up to $743,700, and authorizing the city manager to execute any related documents. And today we have our interim airport director, Mitch Sprunger, here to present. Thank you, Mitch.
Good morning, members of council. Mitch Sprunger, interim airport director. Just wanted to give you this item today. This is our, this is for the acceptance of an airport professional services contract for airport planning, and as well as the acceptance of a Federal Aviation Administration grant offer for an airport master plan. And just some background on this item. We're recently removing and relocating 2 taxiways. And we, in the future, are going to be removing one of our visual runways. And due to that, the FAA wanted us to undergo an extensive planning project. This is the breakdown of that master plan offer. As you can see, a little over $826,000, 90% of which is funded by the grant itself. The remaining 10% is funded by passenger facility charges. Those are the $4.50 fees imposed on airline tickets, and no general fund dollars will be utilized on this project. In terms of the contents, we get an overview of existing conditions at the airport, and there's also a large forecasting element to this project where we take a look at future demand at the airport. So types of aircraft, flight frequency, direction of flight, things of that nature. And then based on that, we will get a land use development portion of the project for both airside and landside development opportunities. And we also get an updated airport layout plan and an updated airport capital improvement program, which is what we utilize for future FAA grant offers. So to bring in qualified consultants for this project, we put out an RFQ for an airport planning services contract. The first task order associated with this will be for the airport master plan, which includes an airport layout plan update. And subsequently, we'll be able to utilize this contract for future development items such as air service development or lease negotiations. And this is just a breakdown of the RFQ process that we went through. We sent it out to 8 firms, 6 of which attended a pre-bid meeting. And we had 3 bid offers, and ultimately Centurion Planning and Design was ranked as the highest firm. So again, we're just asking for your acceptance of the contract as well as acceptance of the grant offer for the master plan. Happy to answer any questions you have. And I brought Miss Molly Waller from Centurion Planning and Design to answer any questions you may have about the master plan.
You'll have questions from council. No question. Yeah, Billy, go ahead.
One of you give kind of an overview of what you expect the results to be from after you go through the airport master plan. Say, define it a little bit further for me, if you would.
Essentially, you're going to have an inventory of what the airport currently has. The master plan hasn't been updated at the airport for over 20 years. So you're going to have a lot of good information as far as what you currently have that you can market to people that might want to come to San Angelo. The end product is also going to be a roadmap to the future. Looking at your existing and your anticipated future users, we're going to identify infrastructure needs that need to be undertaken, as well as opportunities for marketing and outreach, again, to bring businesses to the airport if possible. So you'll get an inventory of what you have and a roadmap to the future.
Does this go ahead?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please.
As we look at that master plan, will you give us time frames for what we should do in a specific time, or what we should consider, not do, but what we should consider?
Oh, most definitely. As Mr. Springer indicated, there's a forecasting element with this master plan. And with that forecasting element, we have different milestones. And so as soon as the city has reached a certain level of demand, it will kick in the next set of improvements. So it's a demand-based master plan. There are airports that do master plans and they burn through everything in 10 years. There's others that do master plans, and because demand is a little slower to grow, it takes them 30 or 40 years to grow their airport up to that future map. But there is a time frame, as a short-term, intermediate term, and long-term time frame that's implemented. And that's all outlined in the project. This project will probably take 16 to 18 months to be complete and have that ALP approved by the FAA. So it's a process. It's a fun process. I hope the city enjoys it.
Lane, you had a question or comment?
The master plan kind of entail using the existing secured boundaries, or is it going to be more conceptual of how we can expand those to better implement hangar space and businesses?
It's limited primarily to existing airport property, which...
But is that within the fence line or outside the fence line?
Outside the fence line also. It goes all the way out to the roads. So we'll look at all of airport property, not just what's essentially currently being developed.
I think the airport's one of our most important economic development opportunities, so I'm excited to see this process go forward.
Good.
Thank you, Molly.
You're welcome.
Further questions?
Yeah, I've got a
Yes,
question.
Tom?
You said it's going to take 18 months to do this?
It does. It'll take us about 9 months to wrap up recommendations and things like that. You take the future airport development and you put it on what's called the airport layout plan. You then go to the FAA, and there's an FAA review and approval process for that final product, and that can take upwards of 6 months. So we should have our recommendations pretty well locked up in 9 months, but then the whole process, when you include the FAA review, it takes a bit longer.
But what happens if tomorrow somebody wants to put up a hangar for a business?
We will incorporate that into our study.
Yes, but you're going to incorporate into a study, but it shouldn't keep us from being able to accept that opportunity, correct?
No, most definitely not. You don't stop the airport during this process. It's constantly evolving. So as things change at the airport, when we go and we do our inventory, we will talk to each and every tenant at the airport, talk to them about their current operations, what they'd like to do in the future, some goals that they have that we can incorporate. But no, as things happen at the airport, we will update the study accordingly.
Does our current runways, are they capable of handling heavy freight at this point? Because obviously one of the important parts of airport development is freight.
Yes. I'm actually going to bring up my partner, David Alexander, to answer that question.
While he's coming up, one quick question, Molly. I'm assuming at some point you'll come back to us and show us the results of your work.
Most definitely, and this is something that the interim director, Springer, and I will discuss later today as far as a schedule. It's a phased study. There are 3 phases, and of course, if City Council would like an update after each of those phases, we're more than happy to do that.
David Alexander with Centurion. With regard to the heavy freight, there was a pavement evaluation done a couple years ago, and what the limiting factor would be the runway length. Currently, your pavement strengths are very good. You could handle some decent traffic. A 737, for example, could come in and out of there. So really, runway length, your shorter runway has a bigger capacity than your longer runway currently.
So would this obviously be something incorporated into it, is extension of a runway for further freight development?
That's exactly correct. If we identify during the forecast and during our inventory process that there is a demand, we would show something like a runway extension or, the expansion of aprons. Those types of facilities require apron space. We would include that as part of the long-range plan, but we would identify those needs that need to be met for each user.
Do I have further questions or comments from anybody? All right, thank you very much. So with that, we need a vote. So I will. Any public comment?
Steve Hampton, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be up here on every one, but it occurred to me that this flight pattern is right over my house, and I don't, I'm not too real interested in getting a lot more noise over my house, so I hope that's included in that study.
Is it currently over your house? Yeah. So you bought it knowing it was over your house?
But we have a small pattern. We have a small amount, so.
I would think noise abatement would be in all of those, so that's included, correct?
Terry?
Terry Jackson. I just had a question about the runway that they're closing. There's still a lot of private aircraft that are at the airport that come in and leave, and that crosswind landing is really good to have in place, and I think that's the one that they're removing. So, questioning that.
We've already approved to remove it.
Okay.
It was done at a council meeting several months ago.
One that I missed, probably. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think if we
Terry,
recall the...
you and I'll talk here in a minute.
Just a sec. What, Lane?
If we recall the crosswinds on, I think it was 92.7. Is that the one we're closing?
2.7.
Was shown that it was minimal. Was that correct?
It was minimal.
You're correct. And the FAA determined that it was excess and it would no longer be eligible for funding.
Correct. So the city would have to come up with its funding to maintain it.
We could keep it if we wanted to fund the maintenance and repair. And so pursuant to a meeting with the Airport Advisory Board and City Council, the determination was made that eventually it would close.
We are not going to close it, I understand, until necessary. So as long as the FAA determines that it's still adequate, we can continue to use it, and until we have further plans in terms of what development might need to be done.
Okay, so that would
it will
be
remain right now.
Possibly 18 months till we get the study back? Or?
Depends on the quality of the runway,
Sure.
because if the FAA says the quality is not adequate, we would have to immediately close it.
Okay, thank you.
I think the crosswinds were one of my biggest concerns on that runway too, because whenever I like to go play around out there, you get blown around a little bit.
Yeah. It's West Texas, it blows. It is. Okay, so we're ready for a vote. All in favor of approving this RFQ, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With none opposed, the motion passes. Item C, public hearing and first reading of an ordinance to change, quote, Harbor Court to, quote, Intertel Way over the complete 325-foot length of the street's right-of-way beginning at West Avenue N and continuing south to the cul-de-sac terminus. And we have John James here.
Thank you. John James, Director of Planning and Development Services. As you mentioned, this is changing the street name of Harbor Court, which is a small cul-de-sac just off of Avenue N. This is related to some of the items you saw at your last meeting, which are all related to the Avenue P drainage project. And so that drainage project includes much of this area there to the south. And so the proposal is to get rid of part of that cul-de-sac. As you recall, this is a companion piece to that came out of the agreement with Intertel to rename that Harbor Court to Intertel Way. I won't go through all of this rationale. This is in your staff report, but basically there are no issues with the renaming. It doesn't conflict with other street names, which is one thing that we always look at. I will note that their original request was to spell it like they spell their company name, Intertel, with the hyphen. As we talked with our 911 and addressing folks, they recommended, we don't currently have any street names with hyphens, and they recommended not including that just for they weren't sure the impact that might have on the computer software and mapping software. And so our recommendation was to go with Intertel without the hyphen. My understanding is that they were okay with that. Their preference would be to keep the hyphen, but that they were okay with that compromise. We did send out our notifications to all of the affected properties adjacent to Harbor Court. We did receive one in favor, did not receive any opposition. Staff does recommend approval, as did the Planning Commission. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do I have questions from council or John? So that means they can never move their business, right? They can grow from where they're currently located. Good. All right, with that, do I have a motion?
So move.
A second. Do I have public comment? With no public comment, we will take a vote. All in favor of changing the name of the street to Intertel Way, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item D, first reading of an ordinance deleting and replacing Chapter 10, Traffic Controls, Article 10.01, General Provisions, Section 10.01.014, Bicycle Lanes of the Code of Ordinances, City of San Angelo, Texas, providing for severability and providing for an effective date. Russell?
Good morning, everyone. Before I get started, I had one minor change to the ordinance that we had in the background. Just had a little typo in there, and I'll go over that here in a moment. Brian's going to pass around the actual changes that were made. Currently, the way our ordinance is written for bicycle lanes is it specifically delineates Southland Boulevard as the only bicycle lane in the city of San Angelo. And it gets down into even saying that, you know, there's only a bicycle lane on the westbound side between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 8 p.m. and then on the eastbound side between...
Is that 7:30 to 8 a.m.?
Sorry, yes, that's what I meant to say. Okay. Did I say p.m.?
Yes.
Anyway. So, and then likewise with the eastbound side being from 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. And that's largely in part to the school that's in that area. You know, with the westbound side, you know, it was going towards school, and the eastbound side is going away from school. So what we're proposing is a more broad ordinance to include bicycle lanes within the ordinance. And the way we'll be administering those is through administrative order. What city staff will be doing is reviewing each bicycle lane to make sure that it meets the current manual on uniform traffic control devices, as well as current traffic laws. It will require city manager approval or his designee's approval prior to issuing a new bicycle lane. And then a memo will be sent to the city clerk, the police department, and municipal court, notifying of the change, and then we'll also be keeping record of it in our traffic operations department. This is to keep everything on public record, to have a real well identified street from block to block, or specific sections that way. And two, if we have find a conflict in the future to where a new business or a new residence moves in, we can remove a section through administrative order, and without having to bring each section to council.
So you're basically saying that you can increase bicycle lanes on any street through an administrative order?
Correct, and I'm getting to that here in just a second a little bit more. The way we currently administer stop signs and no parking areas is through administrative order, and that's why we recommend moving through this method, just because it's a much cleaner, much easier process. If we had to change the ordinance each time just to move a bicycle lane or things of that nature, you know, it would require 2 readings.
Yes, Harry?
We've recently put in bicycle lanes on Oak Street.
Right.
And I've had a few business owners ask about that process. So I'm a little concerned that we didn't address business owners or even residents in when we looked at this process. I would suggest that even though we think this is a good deal, and the city manager can do what he needs to do, or the assistant city managers, we need to have a way to notify the residents or the business owners in these areas about this proposed bicycle lanes, because we ultimately put in no parking on these bicycle lanes, so that the bicycles can be utilized unimpeded. So we got to find a way that we can notify these people.
Sure, and on that specific project, we did have public meetings. We did have those. Bring up those opportunities to raise those concerns during those public meetings. It wasn't brought up. We showed where each of the bicycle lanes were going. We brought that to the public's attention.
We assume the public sees everything we put out there, and I have found that in most cases the communication isn't thorough enough in order to make sure those affected are notified or aware of it. I mean, I think the bicycle lane thing, I mean, you look at what happened on Washington Street and the bicycle lanes that are put on there, it looks ridiculous, because you have parallel parking that's still designated, and then you have the bicycle lane designated, and then you have the center meet. It's strange. It's strange. And
well, that's the current standard that's out there for installing bicycle lanes. Is so a better way to make it, more efficient and things like that.
do we do
safer.
studies on the amount of bicycles that use certain of these streets, or how do we determine that we need a bicycle lane?
Typically, it's based on, visual traffic studies that we have to do, because we don't have, with our existing traffic studies that we perform at this time, or, we put out traffic counters, but those traffic counters don't actually, count a bicycle. It just, it can only pick up vehicles, so we have to do a visual traffic study on each of those areas when we do that.
I just think it's interesting. We talk about adding bicycle lanes, and we have
Sounds
no
more of a
bicycle traffic counts. We do traffic counts for cars, but we're adding bicycle lanes with no traffic counts. I'm confused.
We actually do have an adopted bicycle plan, and as part of the creation of that bicycle plan, both engineering and planning, as well as the MPO, was involved in creating that. And so that identified throughout the city, based on where schools are, where the university is, and other types of, we had surveys from the public as well to help identify which routes would most likely connect people who would be interested in bicycling. And so those streets were selected specifically through that bike planning process, which included input from folks who do ride bicycles in town. But also, obviously, one of the goals is to encourage, we know that there are a lot, from those surveys, we know a lot of people don't bicycle who would if there were safer bicycle facilities like bike lanes. And so we do have that plan in place that, and we're looking at updating that, because it's been, I think it's about 10 or 12 years old now. But there is a process that we go through to identify those lanes.
Do I have questions from council? Okay, so explain again what you're asking for approval on.
We're asking for approval on changing the ordinance to, instead of having a very specific ordinance, that delineates the exact street and block to block and time frames, we're looking at more of a broad ordinance that allows bicycle lanes and is approved by administrative order.
Do I Billy, do
I
you have
have,
something to say?
Russell, you may have said this, and I'm not real clear on it, but when you are considering whether or not to implement a bicycle lane in an area, you hold communication meetings. I mean, you notify the residents that there's going to be a public meeting, and this is what you're going to be discussing.
Correct. So kind of like what John said too, is we have a master plan that we utilize, as well as when we do, what I was talking about more specifically was a project that we actually did where we did, it was the MLK and transportation enhancement project. It was a two-part project. Those projects were actually together. So part of that project is we had a public meeting to show everyone, okay, not only are we working on MLK, but we're working on these other areas to install bicycle lanes.
So I heard John say that you get input from the bicyclists, but if residents in a certain area where bike lanes are planned don't want it, do they have an equal opportunity to push back on that?
Sure, of course.
I mean, and
That's
it
why
would
we
be
have the public
considered
meetings.
not putting a bike lane in a certain area if
Sure, and
residents.
there's other methods to putting a bicycle lane in. We can have a dedicated bicycle lane, or we can have what we have call as a shared use lane. In those shared use lanes, we can have, we don't have the dedicated bike lane, but it would be broken up such that other people could maneuver in those areas.
Because I know in some areas bike lanes are welcomed, such as on MLK. I mean, that was a good thing. But if there are areas where, the residents or businesses don't particularly want it, I just want to make sure they have an opportunity to
voice that.
Express that concern, and we seriously consider it.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Any further questions? So today we're asking that administratively we can approve bike lanes versus having a ordinance change that comes to council.
Correct. An ordinance change every time that we add a bicycle lane.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
A second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Two.
Public comment.
Oh, I'm going to take that vote away. It never happened. And Steve Hampton, would you like to come comment?
Sorry, Steve Hampton. I feel like you do, Mayor. The bicycle usage doesn't seem to be growing, and we're planning for something that maybe the oil is going to give out on us, and we're all going to have to go to bicycles and motorcycles or something like Asians. But it is not here at this time, and I see no need to take control of the away from the people and give it to administrative law. I think that we should always have a say-so on that. And I heard nothing about Oaks being, College Hills being added. I think that was just grant money that caused that.
The grant money that caused what?
That caused the bicycle lane.
Was there a public hearing on the bicycle lanes being added to College Hills?
I don't recall.
There are no bicycle lanes on College Hills. All that's on there right now is a shared use indication, just to make motorists aware of bicycles in the area.
Describe shared use.
Shared use is not, a bicycle lane is a dedicated lane or a solid line like you have on Washington. A shared use lane is just, it's just a lane that has, typically a little wider than a standard lane, but it doesn't have the actual dedicated lane.
Do we have a sign that says this is a shared use lane?
Correct.
Yes.
Rio Concho, do we have one on other streets? Because, I travel on Southland Boulevard a lot, and I've yet to, visually I'm not a bicycler, traveling on Southland, but I've never seen the signs that say you can bicycle from this to this.
There are bicycle signs out there as well as bicycle lanes on Southland Boulevard, approximately from, or I've got it here.
In the Bonham School area, Mayor.
I'm
Right,
sure
it's-
where it is. I
yeah.
just don't think I've ever noticed the sign. So
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
just
They're there.
mentioning that I've
They're
traveled
there.
a
They're
lot, and
there.
I don't think I've ever seen the sign.
They're
So
there.
They're
my
there. They're a black and white
my
sign.
problem.
Yeah.
I think on the Oaks, it's posed a big problem on parking.
Well, it's got to be because parking downtown is limited.
Definitely.
Okay, further public comment? With no further public comment, we will retake a vote that never happened. So the vote now, the motion, a second. All in favor of approving administrative approval of bike lanes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 3 opposed, 4 approved. Motion passes. E, consider a record vote to propose a property tax rate and discussion regarding the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget.
Good morning, Mayor, Council,
morning.
Mr. Valenzuela. We have before you today the record vote on the property tax rate. This is setting the property tax rate at the current rate, which is .776 per $100 valuation. We do not expect it to increase or decrease, and so this vote will allow you to set that rate today. After that point, you would not be able to increase that property tax rate, but you would be able to decrease it at your discretion. So we started out our budget process in April. We've received revenue and expense budgets from all of the departments. We've met with City Manager's office to discuss those budgets, and we've also sent you information in preparation for our budget workshops, which are coming up in August on the 14th and the 28th. On the 14th, we'll discuss proprietary funds, enterprise funds, and on the 28th, we'll discuss general fund budget. So this is the record vote requires each of you to answer individually, right, according to Teresa. And so if you don't have any questions, we can move on to that. As I said, it will be the .776 total property tax rate, with .6824 of that being dedicated to maintenance and operation, and .0936 of that being dedicated to debt service.
Tina, Mayor, could I?
Yes, Michael.
Tina, the state requires council to take this action to put the public on notice on what the maximum tax rate they're going to consider during these deliberations.
Yes,
Is that correct?
That's correct.
So the key is you're obligating yourself only to not exceed what you vote on today.
Do I have questions from council?
What are we supposed to say?
This is
We'll take a vote in a minute. Me, would you like to ask a question?
I guess my question is based on my prior time up at this, when we did this, each individual council person has to do this. Is that correct?
That's what she just said.
After the motion and the second, when you take the vote, each council member, and I'd prefer if we could go by single member district order, and then the mayor states just your single member district, and then your vote, affirmative or negative.
Tommy Hebert, did you have a comment or question?
Is there specific words the state requires us to say?
Not on this vote.
Yes or no?
So we're, okay.
Believe
We're
you
voting
just-
yes or no on .7760. Is that what we're
So
voting
we would
yes
need
on?
a motion and a second on keeping the property tax at that level, and then we would go through the record vote.
Do I have a motion?
I would make the motion that we keep the property tax at the .7760.
Second.
Do I have public comment? With no public comment, we will take a vote. We will start a voice vote with single member District 1 first.
Tommy Hebert, single member District 1. I vote aye on property tax rate of .7760.
Single member District 2.
I, Tom Thompson, vote approval and acceptance of the .7760.
Single member District 3.
Harry Thomas, single member District 3. I vote aye on .7760.
Single member District 4.
I, Lacey Gonzalez, single member District 4, vote to approve sales tax of 7760.
Single District Member 5.
Elaine Carter, District 5, vote aye to 776.
Single Member District 6.
I, Billy DeWitt, vote aye on tax rate .7760.
I, Brenda Gunter, vote aye on .7760. With the vote of 7-0, the motion passes to use a tax rate of .7760.
Thank you.
We will now move into a closed session. It was Section 551.072, deliberations about real property regarding 703 South Chadbourne. We will be gone for approximately 30 minutes.
Yes,
And we will be back. It's 10:20 a.m. We will call the meeting back to order.
World record time.
We'll go to number 9, follow-up and administrative issues. Consider items discussed in executive session. There was nothing discussed to report. Item B, consider approving various board nominations. They are as follows. Would the council like me to do one at a time or in total?
Let's do them all at once.
Okay. So with that, the Airport Advisory Board, Dr. Joseph Rollo, from the mayor to an unexpired term ending October 2020. Civic Events Advisory Board, Del Velasquez, mayor, to a first term ending December 2020. Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, Steve Hampton, SMD 6, to an unexpired term ending December 2019. And a Tiers Board, Casey Barrett, SMD 1, Tiers South, to a second term ending July 2020. Greg Gaylor, SMD 2, Tiers North, to a first full term ending July 2020. Dedra Butler, SMD 4, Tiers North, to a second term ending July 2020. Jim Cummings, the mayor, to a first full term ending July 2020. Do I?
Move.
And a second.
Second.
Do
Can we
I
have some public comment on this about Steve? That character? We'll let it go. Okay, I'm good.
Okay.
Steve, I was trying to have you, so we did it all at once, so yeah.
With no public comment, we will take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? With none opposed, those board nominations are approved. Item C, announcements and consideration of future agenda items. Does council have any items they'd like to have put on the future agenda, Lane?
I don't know if maybe put it on the agenda. I'd like an update on Hexagon.
Okay, put
On
that
what?
on there. Any others? No others?
What was that? What was that one?
Update on Hexagon.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just want to make note of the budget work sessions that will be on the 14th and the 28th of this month.
Thank you.
Yes, 8:30 in the morning.
Any other announcements?
Just announce again tonight, 6 o'clock.
Tonight, we will have at 6 o'clock a State of the City at the City Auditorium. And we look forward to having everyone join us this evening. With that, do I have a motion for adjournment?
Move we adjourn.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Meeting adjourned.